Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to come on here and give my 2 cents about the Jasmine Crockett campaign and her defeat to James Talarico. Now, let me start out by saying that I hope that she would win because I believe that she's a fighter and she could win a general election, and I believe that she actually would have been an opportunity um, to change taxes to make Texas blue and to advocate for specific policies that I support. I feel that she's more approachable. That if she had won, I probably could have worked inside of her campaign. I don't necessarily feel that same way about James Talarico. I believe that he has his own agenda. I don't know that he is accessible as Jasmine Crockett. Um, Now I know that some people had some issues with Jasmine Crockett, which I'm going to talk about. Namely, she did take APAC money. Um, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that because just because you take APAC money doesn't mean that you necessarily support APAC. Like, this is the sausage making of politics. Like, it's a very dirty business. I feel like politicians, I mean, and I'm saying this as someone who has run myself. It's like, unless you do take that dirty money, you're not going to see it a lot of day. It's very difficult to win a campaign to even get any type of media attention. I mean, I've gotten some limited media attention, but unless you have the money, this word of mouth grassroots approach is very difficult. Um, I guess the only way you can sort of counter that is if you have people supporting you, knocking on doors. Like, if you do have a truly grassroots campaign and you have supporters, they sort of can get around that. But the media sort of dominates that, and I'm not sure how the landscape has changed with social media. But at the end of the day, it's not just about your campaign, it's also about the voters. Voters don't do their due diligence, they don't research anything. They do rely on the media solely for their information. So even if you have your information posted, right, if you have a website, if you fill out those questionnaires, people don't necessarily read that. They still rely on the mainstream media to get their information. And so that's just how it's played. I know how dirty the media is. I know how they will have these setups where they interview you and you think that you're going in good faith to actually present your positions, but then they write these hit pieces where they basically use everything that you said against you, and they're looking for dirt. And you're thinking that this is one-sided, but no. Especially when it comes to local media actually they actually endorse candidates, which I didn't know about until I've done it. So I know how dirty the media is, and this is the reason why they take that money. The system is rigged, which is why I don't vote. I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to be more involved with her campaign, but she makes a lot of mistakes. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. And one of the mistakes I'm going to mention is the fact that she started very late because I wanted to help her. I wanted to make phone calls and knock on doors and canvas. And she started very late in the game. And so, and I know this personally because I did reach out and then I didn't get contacted from her campaign until weeks later. I don't know if there's anybody here. Okay, there's one person here. Great. Now, James Talarico won by nearly 7 points. And I know there was some voter suppression issues. People were not able to get to the polls. The information was sort of incorrect that they thought that, this was a statewide race so they could vote at any poll, but really they were only allowed to vote at their local poll. I know that she was planning on filing a lawsuit about voter suppression, but now she's not going to go through with that. So this is why early voting is important. I mean, again, I don't vote, but early voting is important so that you don't wait to the last day and you don't have all these issues. And that's something that her campaign should have emphasized. But her campaign, it was just very lackluster. Some of it is her fault, but at the same time, her campaign also failed her. Her campaign manager, I don't know, he made a lot of mistakes, which I'm going to mention in a minute. But 100 people were turned away on the day of election. Uh, the Dallas judge ordered the polls to be kept open 2 hours extra after the 7 o'clock deadline, but the Supreme Court blocked this, and obviously the Texas Supreme Court is dominated by Republicans. I mean, we can pretend that the courts are not political, but they absolutely are. But at the end of the day, her campaign still should have been proactive to make sure that her supporters got to the polls. Dallas County is only one county. Even if every single voter was allowed to vote, the math does not translate into her flipping the vote or a win in her favor. Courts are not going to change election results. I mean, I've looked through the history. I've never seen a court swing an election, even when there are voter irregularities. They just don't do that. I don't know. I mean, we can look at the Bush v. Gore debacle. It's just like, there's so many examples of it. I even have my own personal experience where I tried to challenge my own election, and of course it was dismissed through summary judgment. Anyway, of course there was gerrymandering, which is why she ran in the first place, because she was gerrymandered out of her congressional seat. Texas redrew the map to where she was basically drawn out of her own district and put in a different district. At the same time, Jasmine Crockett is extremely popular in North Texas. I think she could have won even in that gerrymandered redistricting. I don't know. I mean, she had an extremely safe seat. Before she took over that seat, that district, there was another congresswoman by the name of Eddie Bernice Johnson who passed away, and she basically filled that vacancy, and then she ran for re-election. So if her district had not been withdrawn, there was basically no possible way for her to lose. It's a predominantly black district. Everybody loves her in this district. So the Republicans did screw her over, but let me just talk about her mistakes, because I think I have 9 of them that I just want to itemize. So first of all, she entered the game very late, right? James Talarico launched his campaign in September. Crockett entered on the last day of qualifying in December. She only had 3 months of organizing and fundraising. So James Talarico had a huge head start. This was a bad decision. She knew, well, maybe she didn't know. Maybe she didn't know that she was going to run, because I guess she was trying to figure out what she was going to do with her district now that it had been gerrymandered. And she decided at the last minute to run. So you can't enter a statewide race that late in the game. And even if you do, you're going to have a lot of catching up to do, which I don't think that her campaign actually took into account. Like, they were just kind of lackadaisical. Like, no, you need to hit the ground running, and they did not do that. Second, she alienated the Latino voters. And there were 2 specific statements, right? The first one, which I think was the most damaging, she basically said that black people were done picking cotton, and so basically, we're done. We're going to be the middle class workers, and now it's the Latino. It's their turn to pick cotton. I mean, I know that wasn't her intent, but that is the way it was taken. That basically the Latinos are going to be the new slaves picking cotton, and blacks we've paid our dues, and now it's their turn. So that alienated a lot of Latinos. She didn't apologize for it. She just doubled down on it. Then she did a Vanity Fair interview where she used the term slave mentality to describe Latino voters who support Trump's immigration policies, analogizing that to like blacks who support Republicans and support policies that go against their own community. So I don't know. I mean, you can sort of use that language within the black community to talk about people having a slave mentality, but I think the Latino voters took umbrage with being told that, because they thought that they actually were voting in their self-interest. A lot of these Latinos don't even support open borders. They do support Trump's immigration policies, and some of them are swing voters that could have gone either way. But when you start telling Latinos that they have a slave mentality, they're not going to tolerate that. I don't know. I think because she had done so much advocacy for them, because she was championing for open borders and immigration rights, I guess she thought they would give her a little bit of, I don't know, grace with that. Like, no, they're not going to give you any grace. You can talk shit about the Black community all you want. Other communities are not going to tolerate that shit. And we saw, I'm trying to be somewhat professional here. I am cussing. She also did not run campaigns in Spanish. Talarico had already been running ads on Telemundo or whatever, and in Spanish. Jasmine Crockett started pushing out bilingual material very late in the game. The Emerson poll showed that Talarico was leading with Latino voters 60% to 39%. And so she already had a 21% deficit. But the reality is that she actually fought for Latinos harder than Talarico did. She was actually caping for Latinos, so much so that she actually alienated Black voters, because it's basically like her Black voters were getting ignored because she was championing for the Latino community, which is a larger voting bloc, I guess, at least in certain districts or precincts, I should say. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much advocacy she did for the Latinos. The two statements that she did were damaging, and she did not walk them back. She didn't apologize. I think she could have won them back, but I don't know. Sometimes when you're too arrogant or you're overly confident, you don't want to admit your mistakes. But again, this is a campaign strategy mistake. This is about her campaign. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. I wish I could have been somebody in the room to actually steer them in the right direction, because I'm watching all these mistakes play out and I'm just like, man, this is so fixable. But if you're not willing to fix your mistakes, or at least own them, then you're just going to, I don't know, you're just never going to recover from it. So another mistake, which I thought was glaring, she had $3.5 million that she didn't even spend. And I even posted this on my community wall, that she was out fundraised by Talarico significantly, but even the money that she raised, she didn't even spend it. So at the time that this primary was over, she still had $3.5 million sitting in the bank that she never spent. She entered in 2026 with $5.6 million and only spent about $2 million in the final stretch. And Talarico was outspending her by far, probably, 5-1? So she had the money and she chose not to use it. This was a huge mistake. She should have been running ads. She should have been hiring more staff. But she just thought, I've listened to her speeches. She said, well, I have the name recognition and I have the experience. That's not enough to win a campaign. I'm not sure who was advising her. I would not have said that to her, especially given James Talarico's popularity, and especially some of her controversial statements she's made in the past, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Again, she could have won this election, but she had to actually fight for it. She got a little bit too comfortable. And I'm going to go through this list of mistakes, and then I'm going to actually explain how she can redeem herself, what her steps should be in the future. Fourth, she had no ground game. And when I say this, I'm talking about from personal experience that I did reach out to her weeks ago and did not get any response. It was like two, basically last week is when she started reaching out to people telling us to canvas for her. I'm like, no, we should have been doing this weeks ago. Don't ask me to do this like this late in the game and think that you're actually going to sway the results. She basically waited till the week of early voting. Absolutely not. That is unacceptable. You and somebody you don't look a gift horse in his face and like turn like reject them. Like my time is very valuable. I have a lot on my plate. If I'm willing to volunteer for your campaign, you need to utilize that when I'm able to do it. Don't wait until the week before early voting and think that everybody's just going to drop with it's not even that she just waited until early voting. She also waited to contact us during early voting. So there was no time to plan anything. It's just, come out to and knock on doors and canvas. No, I'm not new to this game. This is not my first time at the rodeo. I've never seen a campaign run like this. They're usually a lot more organized. That whole Colbert thing debacle, I don't know if y'all saw that, where James Talarico went on a Colbert show and he claimed that the interview was being blocked by Donald Trump and that allowed him to fundraise. I believe he got an additional $2.5 million. And of course, James Talarico lied because that ad was not blocked by Trump. It was blocked because under the the fairness doctrine, they have to interview both sides, and I guess they contacted Crockett a little bit too late in the game, and she was not able to go. I don't know. I think that she should have still gone to the Colbert show. I think she absolutely should have. It doesn't matter how late in the game it was, but I guess her campaign schedule probably did not permit that. But again, that's because she waited so late in the game. There was no flexibility. These are some amateur mistakes. Now, let's talk about the whole Hot Wheels comment, because she did say that Greg Abbott was Governor Hot Wheels. And in that moment, it did seem funny. And I personally don't have a problem with that comment, especially given Greg Abbott's proclivities to authoritarianism and no regard for the rights of the Texans who actually reside here. I have no empathy for Greg Abbott whatsoever, but that's not how Texans see it. For whatever reason, they seem to love Greg Abbott, and they do seem very sympathetic to Greg Abbott's his handicap, his disability. So they did see that as being ableist. I call bullshit on that, because after Greg Abbott got millions from his lawsuit, a tree fell on him apparently. He got millions from it, became very wealthy, and became a successful politician out of that. He turned around and lobbied to put caps on tort reform cap. So that was what Wendy Davis ran against him for governor, and what was that, 2000? I want to say 2016. She ran this campaign about his hypocrisy, but I showed the ad on my channel before about the campaign showed an empty wheelchair being pushed across the floor, and it talked about his hypocrisy. But that little 30-minute ad was used to destroy her campaign and say she was ableist. Not only did Wendy Davis lose her race for governor, she actually lost her Texas Senate seat also. So I have not seen or heard from Wendy Davis since that whole debacle. So any campaign manager who has any salt, they would know not to talk about Greg Abbott's disability. Again, this is an amateur mistake. No, that I can't blame that on the campaign. That was something that she gave during a human rights campaign speech. But her campaign should have advised her to apologize, but she did not apologize. Who gives a shit about Greg Abbott? But to the Texan voters, they didn't like it. And she doubled down on it. She refused to, I don't make any type of concession on that. I don't know. Again, I don't like Greg Abbott, but I think that from a strategy standpoint, it was a mistake. Number 7, she assumed that the race was already hers. I know that the polls showed that she was going to win, but she was overly confident. She's just like, I have the name recognition, I have the experience, I'm going to win. No, I mean, you can't listen to the polls. And my first instinct was to think that she was going to lose because I just did not see the work being put into it. There was not when you look at Tallarico's campaign, he campaigned hard. He hit the ground running. He raised all this money. He did all these interviews. He was reaching out to younger voters, and that was his whole thing. I mean, there's not much of an age difference between the two of them, but his whole thing is I would be the youngest U.S. senator in history, and he was reaching out to younger. I didn't really see that outreach with her campaign. And again, she started late because he started in September. She didn't even launch her campaign until December. And all the polls, well, besides one, which I think one of his PACs had a poll which showed that he was in the lead, but all the independent polls showed her in the lead. But again, this is an amateur mistake if you actually believe those polls, because remember how all those polls said that Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump, and all those polls were wrong? Now, let's talk about the cost, because she could have run for re-election in her seat, which I think she was drawn out of her district, but she still could have run for election in her House seat. She did have popularity there. Or she could have just moved her address. I don't know if she could have done it. No, I remember when I ran for office, you have to live in your district for like 16 months or something like that. So I don't think that she could have just moved to stay in her same district. But she did gamble by not running for a House seat and instead choosing to run for Senate. So she gave up her seat. She could have run for re-election or whatever district she happened to be gerrymandered into, but she chose to not do that. She chose to run for Senate. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a mistake, because I do believe in redemption. There are things that she can do. But again, the first thing she needs to do is get a new campaign manager, unfortunately. Unfortunately for him, she needs to get somebody with a little bit more experience. I didn't even talk about her campaign ad, that Super Bowl ad. That was horrible. Both of her ads were horrible. And that is a campaign decision. One was AI, and the other was Trump, bad mouthing her and her just standing there with her arms folded. That was a horrible, horrible campaign ad. I don't know I don't know what they were thinking when they ran that ad. Now, let me just get to James Tallarico for a minute. Of course, he won the primary. I think there's going to be a different outcome when it comes to the general election. And I've seen how Texas politics works. This is going to be a very nasty campaign. I guarantee they're going to be running some nasty, malicious ads against him. And he's not a street fighter. He seems very passive. He's some kind of evangelist. I don't know. Maybe that whole nice guy persona, maybe that will backfire against the Republicans, because he's Christian too. He's just a different kind of Christian. I never really heard Jasmine Crockett talk about her religion, but he was a school teacher and he's Christian. He's just a liberal Christian. So I know how Texans are just because I've been here for so long. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, he has a very good campaign manager, so maybe they do have a plan for winning the general. But he's in an uphill battle, and I just don't see the fight in him. He's not scrappy like Jasmine Crockett, and I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. We'll see. One thing I can say about him is he did not take any APAC money. 98% of his donations were $100 or less from more than 215,000 individual donors across all states. He did run a grassroots campaign. He did have a PAC supporting him, the Lone Star Rising PAC, which spent $6 million on his behalf. He did not take any corporate money. He's been very passive, and I think that's going to be a problem. He doesn't believe in rolling around in the muck. He's not going to get dirty with the Republicans, and I think that is not going to serve him well. Now let's just talk about her future. So her congressional seat she's about to lose that in January. So there is redemption if she does this right. If she handles this right, she's strategic. First thing she needs to do is that she needs to support James Tallarico in the general election fully and publicly. She needs to help him raise money. She needs to draw crowds for him. Show solidarity with the Democratic Party. She needs to support the voter registration efforts. And she needs to stay in the spotlight. She needs to be right there with him and keep her name in the media. She needs to be working with the Democratic Party to help change Texas blue, or at least purple. Texas should at least be a swing state, right? If you get more people registered, especially like in these rural areas where we have a lot of bad policies which are negatively impacting the poor. I don't know. I've lived in Texas. It's really not as conservative as people think it is. It's just that people don't vote, and I'm one of them. But I'm not going to change my mind on that because I've already voted and I have never gotten the results that I want. And I'm tired of being called for jury duty. I don't know. I don't know this is very predictable, but she needs to write a book. And the book doesn't need to be about herself. It shouldn't be a memoir. It should be about the future of the Democratic Party. Basically, this should be her blueprint for 2028. What the landscape is going to look like once Trump is out of office, what Democrats need to be thinking about to rebuild the party. There have been a lot of losses, and she basically needs to put herself on a center stage, and get more involved with party leadership. I don't know what she needs to do to outreach to Latinos. I think she has already been caping for Latinos hard enough. But those two statements, I think people will forget about that. Basically, she just needs to be careful not to make those type of statements before. I think her main mistake was that she was conflating Black and Latino. A lot of people make that mistake to think that there's some type of alliance where whatever you can say about Blacks, you can say about Latinos because it's the same fight. That is her biggest mistake. And it was costly. You can't say that shit about Latinos. They don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to be told that they're the new slaves. They don't want to be told that they're going to be the ones picking cotton. And then basically what she needs to do is she needs to plan for 2028, and she needs to run for Senate again against Ted Cruz. But this needs to be a better campaign. She needs to start early. She needs to be raising money. Ted Cruz is a controversial candidate. But if James Tallarico already wins, then that basically shows that it's possible. Because we haven't had a Democrat win a statewide race since I'm trying to remember what they said. It's probably like the 1990s, like early 1990s or something. But if James Tallarico wins, so that basically shows that it's possible. So it paves the way for her. Now, I already told you all that I don't vote anymore. I recently unregistered to vote because they kept calling me for jury duty. And I don't believe in working for free. I believe that I should be compensated for my time just like everybody else. So on top of that, I did vote in that last election. And it's like, what did I get out that? You're not even listening to my demands, for the candidate who I actually did advocate for. It's like, I wanted somebody to at least bring up the issue of medical assistance in dying, and it wasn't even discussed. So I'm sorry, I'm not a sacrificial animal. I'm not going to continue supporting campaigns where you're not going to actually advocate for my positions on anything. I'm not voting for other people's benefit. I'm voting for my policies. If you don't support my policies, then what am I doing this for? Now, despite that Jasmine Crockett lost, this was a very close race. She is still very popular with Democrats in Texas. So I think that she can win the other Senate seat, especially if she does align herself with Tallarico and keeps her name in the media, basically don't become forgotten. And I was just listening to Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly saying that they're probably going to offer her like a show on MSNBC. I don't know. But whatever she does, she should keep her name in the spotlight. So I don't know. I mean, I can talk about the voter irregularities, but at the end of the day, it's spilled milk now. The results are official. The margin of error is beyond 3%. So it's not going to change anything. So I think she needs to accept this. And she already has. She's already given a concession speech. And she needs to look forward. She needs to get new campaign management and start thinking about running for Senate in 2028. Start raising money. And that's it. But yeah, she can win because she's very likable in Texas, but she can't afford to make any mistakes. Don't alienate the Latinos. Don't talk about Greg Abbott being Hot Wheels. Don't focus on just Trump either. You need to focus on your actual policies. I would say not to take the AIPAC money, but that a grassroots campaign is a little bit difficult. You're going to have to actually put in some work. Taking the AIPAC money is easy because you can just sit in your ass and just receive a check. But if you actually do the work, you don't have to take that money. It's just a harder campaign to run, but you already have the name recognition. People will donate to you. So with that being said, I'm going to get off here and y'all, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I can make this work. Like, what can I do within the James Tallarico campaign? I just don't see him. I don't see him as being as accessible as Jasmine Crockett. I don't think I can get any policies out of him. He seems very safe, very I don't know, middle of the road, like moderate. I don't like candidates like that. I like you need to choose one side or the other. Go on the far left or go on the far right. He's just too moderate for me. I don't like that. So with that being said, y'all have a good day, and I may try to do well. I need to review chapter 10 of my book over the weekend, and I may come back either today or tomorrow. So have a good day.